Good afternoon. After that, just very, it's a beautifully presented storytelling by Deepa Kiran. Put your hands together. Sometime back. Now we have a wonderful panel. The Phoenix in the Sky by Indira Ananthakrishnan. Madam must have joined online. Ma'am, namaste. From Hyderabad, Wo edition.
Okay.
We would like to also request
Madam.
Dr. P. Sangeeta Madam Iflu in conversation with Miss Indira Ananthakrishnan. Dr. P. Sangeeta Ma'am, hearty welcome from Wo, Hyderabad edition. And young panelist, Mr. Bharatveer, who is training here, induction training program of MCR HRD, Junior Assistant Government of Telangana, as an young panelist. We have renowned, well-read, an intellect, and also a visionary, Dr. Ashok K. Goyal sir, IAS retired, as
With
our
the friends,
moderator.
the problem is you can't tell them to choose the
So,
words.
now I would like to request our moderator, Ashok K. Goyal sir, to start the program, sir, and introduce your panelist and your author. The floor is yours, sir. Put your hands together for the panel.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 45 minutes, sir?
Yes, sir.
When we should finish, I mean, that's important.
Yes, sir, 3:45, 4:30, so yeah, 45 minutes.
45 minutes we have.
3 to 3:45, yes.
At the outset, I want to, in fact, congratulate all this audience. Not that it is customary, but in Hyderabad, if the audience are able to gather after lunch, it is a historical phenomenon. Don't laugh at it. On 17th of September 1948, Indian Army defeated the army of Nizam. Historians have an opinion that it was a superior manpower and motivation of Sardar Patel and the Indian Army which subjugated the Nizam's demoralized forces. But that's not the whole truth. I am from Hyderabad. I know pretty well the whole truth. The real truth is that the army of Nizam was fed on biryani, double ka meetha, and the Indian army was told that unless you capture Hyderabad and defeat Nizam's army, you will not get your lunch. On one side, we have an army without lunch. On the other hand, we have an army overfed. I would say that the people of India are celebrating Hyderabad, but I think the reason is the lunch, profuse lunch. What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that those people who remain awake after lunch, they win the wars, and those who sleep, they lose the war. Madam Geeta,
Deepa.
Madam Deepa, I'm sorry. Old man, you should forgive me for the small memory lapses here and there, okay? We have a youngster of the age of my grandson, discussant, not of the age of my daughter-in-law, but slightly more than that, but still very young professor. And of course, you have a wise old man sitting in the middle of all that. I should also thank you that you achieved a role which army took in 1948 to achieve with a huge force, okay? After lunch, if you are able to keep the attention of so many youngsters, at least this entire panel is grateful to you. We are thankful to you. Please be seated. Madam Anita Ananthakrishnan ji, namaskaram.
Indra.
Namaskaram, Indra ji.
Namaskaram to all of you.
Santoshamamma, namaskaram chepte yenta santoshamani. I have really nothing to say except thanking the author that she wrote a book. I was expected to read the book, so I read the book. And then there are two supporting, crutches to help me out to go through the whole session of 45 minutes. But madam, let me not really ask a question. It is for my own enlightenment. Phoenix in the sky, I think you all know Phoenix. In Greek mythology, in the Egyptian mythology, And in the Chinese mythology, phoenix is a bird which got burned to ashes and then rose in the sky with a rebirth. A bit of a death and punarjanma, which we in Hinduism know pretty well. That's not the point I want to say. This wonderful collection has 34 gems, 34 stories. No religion in the world has been left behind. You have all the Abrahamic religions, the Moses, the Jesus, the Muhammad. You have, of course, our own Rama and Krishna. Of course, you are having Shankara, and we have the Vivekananda, and we have the Shankara, and we have the Nanak. Then we had our own Upanishads. I mean, from China we have a Lao Tse, the great author who seems to have been nurtured in the womb of his mother only for 81 years. So we have wonderful characters, wonderful personalities who have shaped the history and motivated the mankind in a particular direction. Of course, our own Buddha and Mahavira, they are all there. Madam Indraji, tell me, a ordinary person, as to what inspired you to write such a profound spectrum of small stories covering all the religions of the world. Tell us the inspiration behind it before I proceed further with moderation. Raj.
Thank you very much, all of you, especially Valley of Words. I'm very thankful to Valley of Words to be here with you all. And I've been listening to earlier program sessions also. Each one of them has been lively in its own way. And I hope this one also, four of us, will make it as lively as possible for the audience. And coming to your question, you asked me about the inspiration. It's not an inspiration that comes suddenly. It's been with me for years. I have been, I wouldn't say a spiritual person, but this idea of religion, what is religion? What is the difference between religion and spirituality? And are all religions the same? All these things have been going on in my mind for a very long time. Actually, my mother, I remember when I must have been when I was in the 30s or 40s, my mother complained to my younger sister. She said, "You know, your elder sister, I'll tell you in Tamil, this Indra, எப்போதும் சாமி சாமின்னு உட்காந்துருக்கா." That means Swami, Swami. She's all the time talking and thinking only of God and spirituality. She doesn't come down to worldly gossip and all that. It may not be 100% true. Of course, my mother had a method of exaggerating things. But what I'm coming to tell you is I had that feeling right from a young age, and for the past more than 20-25 years, I have been telling stories to children. Now, Deepa Kiran, I'm really very, very indebted to her for having told two of those stories so beautifully. And it brings out the difference between story writing and storytelling. I have been a storyteller. I still tell stories. And the storyteller has the prerogative to say it in her own words. The storyline will be the same, but she can use it to express herself in such a way that, as very truly Deepa pointed out, the story told will stay in your mind. This book, I don't know how long it will last with those who buy them, but the story in your mind will last forever and ever. This morning, from 10 to 10:30, I was at a storytelling session, telling children about Children's Day. What do we know of Children's Day? Nehruji, his birthday, his love for children, that's all. Whereas I started thinking in a different perspective. I took all the children from our religion and also from, I don't know much about other religions' children, Saint Teresa of Avila and Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas, everybody knows as Santa Claus. These two I took from Christianity, and from our Hinduism, we have so many Nachiketas, Satyakama, Dhruva, Andal. Oh, you can go on. So, this is what we discussed in our storytelling session today, looking at Children's Day in a very different perspective. Now, nobody can stop me from doing that because I'm a storyteller, and the children really enjoyed it. So, that much about storytelling. So, this inspiration you asked me, it's been in my bones for a long time. And suddenly, when this idea came up to write about religion, not only of my own religion, of which I am very proud. I have full faith and belief in Hinduism. I am a devout Hindu, you can say. But at the same time, I keep thinking about other religions also. You won't believe me. In the TV on Fridays, I watch that uh, Muslim person, I don't remember his name, for half an hour. He talks on the Quran. I like it. I listen to it. And sometimes on Sundays, there is a preacher from Christianity. He talks. I listen to that also. And of course, a number of discourses in Hinduism I listen. So all these are in my mind. And but I must confess, when this point came up about writing on world religions, I really got confused a little bit. Am I worthy? Can I write so much on world religions? I was really stumped. I said, yes, Hinduism I know, but what about the other world religions? No matter, I will read up. I love reading. And I read and read and read and went through all the different books. And fortunately, I was in America at that time with my son, and he used to take me to the county library. Oh, believe me, that library had so many books on all the different religions in the children's section, young adult and children's section. So I used to carry home 20, 30 books at a time, spread the books all around me, read from here, there, everywhere. And slowly, slowly, I started collecting material. I have not come down to writing as yet. I started collecting material. I went into the religion. I started believing. I said, yes, all great masters say the same. I started believing in that. Whichever religion you take, what the master says is the same. But somewhere down the line, they got misinterpreted, and that is why we have all these religious animosities. Your religion says that, my religion doesn't say that. All that comes later. But originally, all great masters say the same. I truly, sincerely believe in those words. So that is how these stories started coming up. So I let you say
Indraji,
something.
I am amazed and excited to listen to your journey as to what went into your reading before it came out in the form of the book. You are from the land of Tamil Nadu. It's also called Tamilakam, the great land of Thiruvalluvar, the great land of Rajgopalachari. I remember having got Ramayana and Mahabharata as the gift books in my high school. We used to read in those days. And I also understand that Vivekananda went from this land called Bharatvarsha to America. So you remind me of the tradition. You go from here, go to other country, learn something, give it to us. I really feel very happy to participate in such a session where the book of Indra Amma is being recited. Let's give a big hand to her efforts. Well, from the great land of Tamilakam, people may be wondering why I'm using the word Tamilakam. Tamil Nadu is a state where the Tamil is spoken as a language. Tamilakam is a Tamil land. Please understand, there's a slight difference. So I'm using the word Tamilakam, which is a land where Tamil is certainly spoken, but so many other historical truths are embedded in that land. The land of Sangam literature, the land of Pallavas, the Cholas, the Pandyas, overseas victories, my God, my God. And now we have a overseas intellectual victory of Indira Amma going to America. From the land of Thiruvalluvar, it's my pleasant duty to move on to the land of Shankara, just nearby, the Kerala state. And I have Madam Sangeeta, she's a professor Sangeeta. In fact, the question answer session, we have done a bit of rehearsal during lunch time, so I think there'll be no difficulty. She has told me what questions to ask, and I've also told her what answers to give. So the answer she will give are advised by me, and the questions what I'm asking are advised by her. So this is called no communication gap between the professor and the scholar, okay? No,
I wish I had a rehearsal too. I didn't have it.
I have ascertained your age. You are far more elderly and wise compared to me. I'm comparatively pretty young, so I think, excuse me, I think if in the next
You're
life,
a wise old man, then what am I?
no, you are, see, in this life, you are
Wise
my
older
professor.
human.
In this life, you have to be my professor. In next life, I do not know what I would be, but that's what it is. No, Madam Sangeeta, because, I mean, 34 stories, we have heard a couple of stories from Deepa. Now, there are 34 stories. It's a very, very difficult job. I don't even have 30 minutes, and I am supposed to categorize it. You know, it's impossible to categorize an ocean. But after going through these stories, I thought there are certain, what they called in physics, rather atomic physics, you know, the spectrum. It has got certain themes. One of the themes is, you know, there's emphasis on environment, ecology, cooperation, the need for that between the man and nature. There are several stories relating to that. In particular, there's a story of the cup of nectar. Even nectar is of no use if people don't cooperate. Then there's a mystic and car driver. It tells you that life and the death are just the realities. And then we have Dattatreya, who is the mystique. The thing you give is not yours, it belongs to nature. So whatever you give, you should be humble. I mean, that's a great lesson of this cart driver. Dattatreya, of course, was a great man. He was the Shishya of 24 gurus. And who were the gurus of Dattatreya? We had air, water, Panchatattva, and God knows what. So, Madam Indiraji, it appears that while you traveled the entire landscape of religion, I think this innate attraction for ecology, environment, harmony, cooperation between men and the nature, was it underlying theme somewhere? Readings, in your learnings, what it was?
That's a rather confusing question to answer. There's no underlying one theme. I just wanted to bring out the values, what we call dharma. Samanya dharma. Visesha dharma is different. Samanya dharma is universal values, the values which all of us should adopt. And values will just be in front of us. But when we change those values into virtues, those virtues will be ingrained in us, and then we can become better human beings, and our life will be better. So the underlying principle or theme is just dharma, that different values. So all kinds of good values I wanted to bring into my stories, the messages, and at the same time they should not be what moralizing or preaching kind of thing. So I read through so many stories. Like this mullah story, I read through so many mullah stories. It was such fun reading through all of them. And slowly I could pick out, I shortlisted every religion. I had to shortlist the story and then finally pick out on one which will help me to introduce the children to a variety of values which they will understand that they have to adopt. Now, I had to layer the stories in such a way that it will help younger children as well as the growing children. Growing children are the young adults. And surprisingly, what I found was when I gifted these books to various families, and some of them bought on their own, they said, "Indra, why do you think this book is for children or a young adult?" We enjoyed it, the father and mother, the parents. So I think it transcends all ages, and everybody seems to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing the book. To answer your question, I have put down on paper exactly what was running on in my mind when I started writing these stories after collecting. So one was introducing children to the key beliefs and messages of world religions through stories, showing how the core messages of all religions are similar, universal, and all time. It's relevant today. What those people said ages ago, those saints and sages or whoever, those values are relevant, very much relevant today, or even more relevant. And I wanted to keep the stories simple, readable, and at the same time, I realize that today's children, their attention span is very low. Earlier in my days, it was only younger children, very young children, whose attention span was low. So I used to write stories for 200 words, 250 words for those young kids. But now I find in this atmosphere in which is bursting with information and video games and phone and all that. So these children and young adults and even elders, we are all not able to focus our attention on any one thing for a certain amount of time. So, knowing that children's attention span is low, I made the stories as short as possible, and at the same time, the message, the fun, the activity, the action, everything had to come out in that short span story. So, that was not an easy job. And I had to take care not to make the tone, as I told you, not to make the stories moralizing or preaching, and layering them for different age groups, and also interspersing the stories with life stories of great people. Listening to stories about their lives, we are sure to get inspired, especially the youngsters. So I had to um, give short. I mean, Adi Shankara or Vivekananda, I couldn't tell everything about them, just a little bit, which will inspire the children, which will make them go and read more about them and understand. And also, as our wise old man read out the snippet for the phoenix and in the sky, I wrote short snippets so that they would understand the context where these stories have come from, and encouraging and developing the mind to examine the idea of faith and religion. Religion is one thing, spirituality is another thing, believing and having faith, they are all closely related. But as you read the stories and think about them, the younger children will just read the stories for fun. the older children will start thinking. I wanted them to think on these stories and what exactly it gave them, like Baha'u'llah and Zoroaster, what they told us, Lao Tzu, what they have told us, we know very little. But these stories will just give an inkling to the child or the young adult to start thinking on what they said. Yes, they have also told us the same thing. The same values hold good here as well as there. All these things come into the child's mind. And lastly, to look at religion not as a divisive factor but as a uniting factor. I sincerely hope that children, young adults, older people also, when they read it, they will start understanding why this religious animosity all over the world. The religion is not divisive, it is a uniting factor. Religion and the spirituality that comes out. We stop with religion. We should not stop with religion. That is the message for the children. They should go, they should evolve and graduate to spiritualism that comes out of these religious rituals and whatever we follow. That is why the stories are from the Upanishads. Upanishads is actually called Vedanta, the end of Veda. Veda carries all the religious rituals. Yes, you do the rituals, but you graduate from the rituals, from religion to spirituality. I really hope, sincerely hope, all these messages come out for the reader from this. I wanted to take the readers on a wonderful journey, a journey which others might have gone through, I don't know. But for me, it was a unique journey, and I wanted the children or the readers to come with me on this unique journey of going all over the world, not as a tourist, but with a different purpose that would make us go into a higher plane of existence. If you go as a tourist, okay, you enjoy a lot, no problem in enjoying the food and the stay in a hotel, 5-star hotel, and going around and your safari trips and this and that. Okay, that is all worldly. But this sort of journey will take us to a higher plane of existence. And I really want the readers to at least, in an infinitesimal way, going into this higher plane of existence will really satisfy me for having written this book. I did have to go through a lot of reading, as I said, and try to project the right thing, especially in Islam. I didn't want the Muslim people to take any offense. So I had to be very
Madam Indra
careful.
ji, before we go to Islam and the other related issues of other religions, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you for giving us a message, Samanya Dharma. That's what she has said, and that's what we are all grateful to her. We will certainly touch Islam. We will touch Islam a little later. I think our wise man from the land of Nanak, our Harpreet Singh ji is here, so let's give a big hand to him. I was only tied up in Tamil Nadu and also Kerala, but I think once you come, you really take my stature, to the across the country. So welcome, Harpreet bhai. Madam, Indra ji has told going to the higher plane, religion to spirituality. Honestly speaking, for a lesser mortal like me, I find it difficult to absorb all that. You must be a wise lady because you are from the land of Shankara, Kerala. You are also from Palghar, the great historic graph from where the great man came from the village of Kaladi and went all the way up to north. Yes, yes. Please enlighten lesser mortals like us. What's your take on this? Thank you. Madam Sangeeta, Professor Sangeeta.
Thank you, sir. Namaste, madam. Madam, I just wanted to congratulate you on taking up a task that very few attempt
What
these
you would like
days,
to ask?
because young literature for young adults is now just fantasy fiction.
Philosophy of life and death.
At the most, what they read is either fantasy fiction or manga.
Philosophy of life and death.
So I was quite surprised, pleasantly
So,
surprised, I
soul is
must
earth,
say, to
shall
go on a
pass
journey
away,
with
it
you to a to
element of
stories which I heard
miracles,
from my
yeah.
mother, from my grandmother
philosophy of life
in
and death, I
childhood.
mentioned.
So, and of
On that
course,
you want to ask
a
some
lot of new vistas. So, I wanted, in fact, I had a lot of questions, but you have already answered most of my questions. How you went about it, what prompted you to
Banquet, which
choose
one?
the stories
Which
that
one?
you have chosen, the way you wrote
Very
without
first.
a tone, a tinge of
Deepa has
moralizing
read
or
out.
preachiness, just as a friend talking to another. So
but
these
that
were
was acted
aspects
upon by
I
Deepa.
noticed and I felt very grateful for,
Clothes
because
are not
I teach
important.
young adults and I feel
Clothes are
that
not important.
the
Your
most of
being
the
is important.
students, what they only get to
was
read
already
are
said,
fantasy
so
fiction.
I
So
think
I was
probably
really grateful for this lovely book and the way it is presented.
to ask that question?
I should especially congratulate the way it is designed and illustrated. Mm, and I should actually thank Miss Sahitya Rani for her wonderful illustration. But
That
bef-
is, I should thank the publisher and the editor. We really did a very cooperative job. The writer,
okay,
the editor, and the publisher, and the cover design and all beautifully done. It's not.
yes,
I mean, I was not involved in
okay,
the design. It was by the publisher. And what I liked about it is why Phoenix? When there were 34 stories, why pick on the Phoenix? Because the Phoenix is something, as our sir said, it's from the Greek mythology and Egyptian and Chinese mythology. But, the way they have presented it in those mythological stories about the phoenix coming and then it getting going to ashes and then again, what exactly is the idea, what is the message behind it? So I had to think about it deeply, and then the message, what I'm trying to present in the story, came up. And the other stories also, how one by one I had to think deeply on how to present the stories to the children, and then only I had to work on the story. So a lot of thinking had to go into it before I presented them, and of course, one draft, second draft, third draft, and finally the editor putting in her comments, and then finally I changed the um, included her comments, which were very, very reasonable, and did my draft. So it did, but I enjoyed it. Any work that we do, if we enjoy the work, it doesn't seem a burden. Otherwise, it seems a burden. So whatever I did put in a lot of work, but at each and every step, I enjoyed the whole journey. So I hope the readers also equally enjoy the journey.
Very nice. Please.
oh sorry. Can Bharat to ask something? He for us
Actually,
amongst
he is the youngest of the
yes.
lot,
So
and you are the wisest of the lot. So let the youngest ask a question from the wisest. Please go ahead.
I have one more question, sir. After this,
Good
I have
afternoon,
one more
madam.
question to say.
I want to know what message do you want to give to the youngsters from the story of
Can you
fish
be a
and the
little
fox?
louder? A little louder, please.
I want to know what message do you want to say to the youngsters from the story of fish and the fox?
The story of?
Fish and the fox.
Fish. Which one?
Which story?
Fish and the fox.
Oh, he
Which
wants
one?
to know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, his voice is very
Sixth
coming
story,
very.
the fish and the fox.
Oh, the fish and the fox. Yes, that's a good one you have asked. Where is that? Which one? 22 page. The fish and the fox. It is, see, the girl at the end gives the answer to the whole thing. Why? Whatever, I mean, as he said, it sounds a very ordinary story. What is in it? But finally, when the girl gives the answer, then the whole message comes out. Like, I just read it out. What did the girl say? Like the fish who feared the fisherman, we too fear the authorities. Now, this is, you must understand the context in which it is written. They were being ruled by a very, very strong government which was trying to put down their religion and all that. So they feared the authorities. But the fish did not abandon the lake, their only means of survival. Therefore, we too should not abandon our study of the Torah. If we do, we may lose all hope in life. So where does our hope in life lie? Our hope in life lies in our religion, in what we take out from our religion. So each one of us, we have to be proud of our religion, have full faith and belief in our religion. That is the hope. If we lose that, if we say we are, I don't like my religion, then you change to another religion that also you won't like. Have full faith in your religion, and and for that we have to keep reading a lot about our religion. Keep listening to what others tell us. Your parents, your teachers, your guru, or whoever tells you about about your religion, then you will get that feeling, yes, this is my only thing I can cling on to in life. No matter what challenges I have to face, religion will help me to keep up my hope. So that is the beautiful lesson that comes out of this very, very short story from day to day life, which the Guru tells the children, tells the listeners. So that's
I
one
think the
of the very
youngster,
good stories.
I think youngster has got questions answered to some satisfaction. Anyway, he's threatening to ask some more questions, so I'm forcing him down in a gentle manner. In fact, moderator becomes a very greedy person, especially when there is a director general of the institute, Harpreet Singh ji is around. Ma'am, from this book, in fact, I gather lots of wonderful traditions. We hear of Adi Shankara, he started the tradition of Advaita Siddhanta. Then we have the story of Nanak, of course, he went into history, but the langar, the concept of community feed, everyone can come and partake food. And then, of course, Vivekananda is very much before us, Ramakrishna, institutions. So I look upon these stories as these great people leaving a legacy which is followed by multitudes across the world. I must confess, I am a very poor Gyani about Nanak. Harpreet Singh ji, sorry for disturbing you. You have to tell us, a story we have read, it's all wonderful. What is the philosophy behind langar initiated by Guru Nanak Dev? Because you are from that land. Please go ahead. Take this to him.
Sir, at the time when Guru Nanak was there, the people used to not eat together. There were restrictions on eating together, communal eating. People regarded themselves as purer and did not want food prepared by other caste people and partake of it.
Okay.
So, the teachings of Guru Nanak were against these ideas, and that is the reason he practiced it. He wanted to break these barriers amongst his followers. So for his followers and his people, whoever wanted to meet him, they had to break this barrier. They had to eat in the community kitchen food prepared by anyone, and they cannot maintain distance and purity. So the purpose of Guru Nanak's message was that these practices are not good, they have to be erased, and my followers will not follow them. That is why he instituted the practice of langar.
Thank you. We have plenty of wisdom not only on the dais, not only across the world in Madam Indra, but I think much more than that in this audience itself. So thank you very much indeed, Harpreet Singh ji. Madam, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Indra madam, can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, how is retelling a story different from creative writing? Because you have also written stories on your own. So how was it different? How was the process different?
You mean these type of stories which have a base and the creative stories that I write? Yes. So yes, I have been writing creative stories for a very long time, and but in every story that I write, I make it a point to see that some message comes through whatever the locale may be. I don't go in much for mystery stories or science fiction or adventure. uh, Adventure stories, yes, but even those adventure stories had a message. The first thing I think is about what is my story, what message is my story going to give the children without being preachy. Make it into a lovely, beautiful story. But after reading the story, the child should feel satisfied that he has learnt something from the story. That has always been my theory. Like, for example, Tinkle, the youngsters of today would definitely be reading Tinkle. So, in that Tinkle magazine, I was writing for 20 years. What stories? The story about the village bumpkin, Pyarelal, and his wife Lajwanti. He is a poor farmer and just husband and wife, and the farmland and what they do in the farm and how they cooperate and live in the village. And I mean, you cannot say don't get a message, but it gives a message. Every story of mine, and children loved those stories. But of late, things have changed. They have gone on to graphic novels and dishum dishum and action packed. So Pyarelal has retired. But I must have written about 80, 90 stories on Pyarelal and Lajwanti, and each one of them had a message. And that is how I wrote. And many other short stories I've written for ICCR, for Government Publications Division, for Children's Book Trust, for National Book Trust. All short stories. I've hardly written one or two novels or novellas, but even the novella that I wrote was about Hindu-Muslim unity. Two boys, one Hindu boy and one Muslim boy. How they get friendly, they get separated because of the riots, and then finally they get together. So that way, all my stories, short stories, had a message. But this became profoundly, what can I say, profoundly different and giving messages I want. So I felt a very good satisfaction in this one. I wrote recently, which won a prize, about the fishing village. Fishing since I'm staying in Chennai, I read a lot about these fishermen. I haven't gone and met any of them. But then, so this was an adventure story about the fishermen. But then that also had a message for children at the end of it. That is the way I write stories.
Very nice, Indra ji. We have only 5 or 6 minutes with us. I think before I give the final words to you, ma'am, I think having gone through the whole book, another element, another theme which comes out is something extraordinary with these great personalities. Krishna, we have heard so much about him. But then he could ensure that even a blind man can see his Leela. This is what comes out in one of the stories.
I had tears in my eyes when I was writing that story. How the divine and the devotee can come together. You pointed out a very good point.
Divine insight. Then, of course, there is an element of surprise for ordinary people like us. I has already told. Lao Tse, he was nurtured in the mother's womb only for 81 years. So we better believe it. Then we had the Jesus. He was able to transform water into wine. That's also another story. But something which really excited me in the whole thing is about Buddha. Buddha, as we pretty well know, was born to Shuddhodhan, who was a ruler of Kapilavastu in the northern India, bordering Nepal. Now, obviously, when the kings don't beget a son, there is a worry. They went to worship. They worshipped Mother Goddess, what people in Telangana would recognize in Jogulamba. You worship the mother who gives you a blessing to have a child. Shuddhodhan with his wife, they went to the temple. They were blessed. Mother Goddess did not disappoint them. In due course of time, Buddha was born. As usual, the ruler wanted to know what exactly is the future for this boy. And one of the wise men said, he will either be a great king or a great sannyasi. It was this prophecy which made Shuddhodhan keep that young Siddhartha away from all the worldly things in the palace. Of course, we know pretty well what happened. He has to become that, he became. It's almost a similar story of the birth of Lord Rama. Everybody has heard that yes, Rama, Sita is all fine. But the moment Rama was born to Kaushalya, something was happening. We know pretty well Dashratha was not having progeny. 3 wives, worshipped, got a boon, cut into half, give it to Kaushalya, another half, give it to Sumitra, another half and half, gave it to, Kaikeyi. We all know the story of the distribution. It was a pretty inequitable distribution by Dashratha among the 3 wives. We know pretty well. That's not important. The important thing is, it was prophesied before the birth of Rama that he will be a great man, no doubt in it. Kaushalya will be giving birth to a son. It was also said, if the son is born in Uttarardha, that is before 12 mid-noon, he shall be a great ruler. It was also said, if he is born after 12, when the sun is past the zenith, he will be a sannyasi. Right from the morning, Kaushalya was worried, praying to Surya, looking at it, praying for the early delivery of the child, also praying to Lord Surya not to move so fast. But the sun was moving, what to do? Sun kept on moving, it almost touched the zenith, and that was the time when Kaushalya closed her eyes and left everything to the God. It is said she left everything to Rama. That was a precise moment of interjunction between the morning and afternoon when the sun was at the zenith, Rama was born. This was the man who will become a king, but also become a sannyasi, and thereafter he becomes a king. The limited point I am trying to tell you is, these miracle behind Abdullah, his son Muhammad, the mother Amina, dying early age, being brought up by Halima. All these stories about these great men are narrated, believed, and absorbed by the generations after generations all over the world. I'm really excited to be a part of this gathering. I think the time is up. Before I say thank you to everybody, because of the author Indiraji, we are here. Madam, last words of wisdom to all the audience, including the people on the dais. You let us know. Last 2-3 minutes.
Last words of wisdom. You really asked me a difficult question. Yes, just that we have to have faith and belief in our religion. At the same time, you look at the other religions also in a objective way. and so that we all know that all great masters say the same. Then the world will be a better place to live in, with no religious animosities, with cooperation, with love of nature, loving ecology, loving the environment, and all the things which are problems today will get automatically solved if each and every one of us is able to change our focus. Just a small shift, and then it will work like magic. I only hope it happens in the next few years, like our Prime Minister saying by 2030 this will happen, by 2050, oh, wonderful things will happen. So, like that, I also hope in the near future, this message will bring better living for all of us. Thank you so much.
Indiraji, your message for our Prime Minister is great. I wish that all the heads of the state, the presidents and prime ministers of the world, they listen to your words of wisdom, because your message is a universal message. Last
Thank
word I
you
want to
so
say on my
much.
behalf. When I was a small child, almost 70, 60 years ago, I'm a pretty old man, 60 years ago, I was a small child. And I used to sit in the lap of my grandmother. She was illiterate, but she knew all the stories from the core of her heart. Everything she will tell us. And she used to say last one thing, be good, tell the truth, don't be afraid. These virtues have been dinned in our ears and become a part of our growing and learning experience. That was in 20th century. In 21st century, we have Madam Indira. Well, I would only say, if 20th century was the time of my grandmother, 21st century belongs to the virtual grandmothers telling the real stories like Indiraji. Let the tribe of Indiraji grow and world be a better place. Thank you.
You have a really very nice way of putting things, of projecting the scene. Thank you so much.
Yes. After all, being an IAS officer, I can't stop being authoritarian. Each one of you shall pick up a nectar of this book before you leave, lest disciplinary charges are leveled against you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.